There is a curious, beautiful way that the light shows itself on these mornings that are so close to the winter solstice. Peeking through the branches, the longest shadows give us a sense that that light could disappear at any moment. The light is here, but it isn't. It is a moment. In a moment, it cuts through the bare trees, unfolding the night like a quilt that was keeping scattered diamonds in its fold. Suddenly, the diamonds of dew or frost reflect the sun's fire. And then this light shifts slightly, and the shadows again fall, and the reminder returns that we are in the darkest time of the year. I sit in the soft gray chair in front of a desk with a teal blue book on the theology of Friedrich Schleiermacher, the great liberal theologian. And next to that book is a black phone. The scent of cinnamon cuts through the air as someone has made rolls for any takers. It's the holiday season here at the Samaritan's Crisis Hotline. And between a large plastic Christmas tree and an electric menorah, I alternate between doing my reading for divinity school and answering the line. This was one of my field placements when I was in seminary. As I'm reading, I find that Schleiermacher says that all of religion starts with a feeling, a felt sense of divine presence. For him, it is a powerful feeling of dependence on something greater. He is dismissive of creeds and dogmas and instead turns to experience to find a sense of the divine. He writes, the essence of the religious emotions consists in the feeling of absolute dependence. It is the feeling that we are not our own. Our breath and our being rely on a creation that is so much larger than us. The phone rings at my desk. And I have to say, I don't expect anything dramatic. Most of the calls are not nearly as severe as one might guess. Most of the time, it is a person seeking a few moments of connection in their day, and I feel privileged to get to help with that. But this time is different. The person at the other end of the line says that his name is Matt, and within the first few minutes, I realize that this will not be an easy call. There is a rhythm in the language of despair, a texture, a slower speech, words that seem hollowed out on the inside. And I'm going to state this very delicately today. Matt is one of the few people in the time that I was working there where I was deeply unsure of his outcome once he hung up that phone. And he called because he wants me to sit with him in the pain of that. Now, I need to be clear, there's no way for me to trace the call, no way for me to force him to get help. All we can do, the Samaritan's Crisis Hotline, is stay on the line. And I plan to sit with him as long as I can, to listen to him, to hope that it may change the course of things for him. And I am on that call for at least an hour. And I remember lots of silence. And I remember trying to still my anxious and worried heart. And I remember as the call was coming to an end, how desperately I wanted to say the right thing, or at least say the most honest, true thing that I could find, but all I could scrounge together was this. Matt, I will be here tomorrow, and I hope so much that I get to hear from you tomorrow. And that's when he tells me it's time, and the line cuts off. If Schleiermacher was right, that religion begins with a feeling of connection and dependence on something greater, then I wonder what it is that he didn't say. What happens when the bottom falls out? What happens when at the deepest level one feels absence or a gathering gloom that chills the soul, a feeling that nothing can be depended on, what the poet Ellen Bass calls an obesity of grief. An obesity of grief. Or the thing that Kim Adionzo wants desperately to forget, but finds her mind returning to again and again. They ask me, can I just lighten up? Why can't I just lighten up? Do I have to bring it up again? Isn't there another subject that I can find? Turns out theologians and mystics have tried to chart this season that refuses to go unnoticed. Some call it the dark night of the soul. And like the dark itself, it's not bad and it's not evil, because grief and sadness are not bad or evil, but they are hard and they are painful. And the dark night of the soul is hard and it is painful, and it can feel especially painful for some more than others. And for those people, it can be like a persistent wound, or perhaps like a bleak part of the soul that expands beyond just a part. It can feel bottomless and timeless. The spiritual writer Nicholas Wolterstorff words it this way: the ache of loss sinks down, down, deep beyond all telling. How deep do souls go? It is for him an unanswered question and an unanswerable one. For some, that sinking is measured in seconds, and for others in years. For some, it has an end, and for others, I pray that it has an end. But the lack of assurance within the dark night is also a strangely hopeful thing. When there is nothing to rely on, despair also cannot be relied on. Grief and sadness also cannot be relied on. The dark night of the soul has a strange way of turning itself inside out, of uncovering fractals of light, of finding glimmering when one sits with it long enough. It is here that we find this strange transmutation and alchemy, a way in which the darkest caverns of the spirit hide the light. Rainer Maria Rilke gets this. He puts it so beautifully in that poem that Kate read this morning, and I'd like to revisit his words. You, darkness that I come from, I love you more than all the fires that fence in the world. For the fire makes a circle of light for everyone, and then no one outside of it learns from you. But the darkness, it pulls in everything. Shapes and fires, animals and myself, how easily it gathers them, powers and people, and it is possible a great presence is moving next to me and I just don't see it. I have faith in nights. Rilke discovers that trusting the darkness can be an opening to the light. Those lines where he says that the darkness pulls in everything, shapes, fire, animals, myself, power, people, that means that the darkness is not simple void. The darkness contains everything within it. The feeling of loss and absence can open to a feeling of presence. As he puts it, it is possible this great presence is moving near me. I have faith in nights. I wonder if Rilke was asking the same question that I am today. How do we know? How will I know whether it's darkness or whether it's light? How will I know whether I'm looking at the absence of meaning or whether I am about to experience its flare, its return, the glimmer in the darkness, the winter solstice that is the longest night that bridges into the light's return? We moderns have watches, clocks, alarms, timers, calendars. We have minutes and weeks and months and years. We predict when twilight will fall and when daybreak arrives. We know when the winter is upon us and we know when the days will again lengthen. Why can't we predict this season of the Spirit? It seems like such a reasonable request. It turns out to be an impossible one. I know this because my spirit has gone through dark seasons, the ones whose arrival and departure were set to no schedule. And I know that many people here in this room have experienced that too. This week at the Blue Holiday service, some of you had the courage to share the season that you are currently going through. And I am holding those stories in my heart today. The root of the word faith is fidelitas, which translates roughly as trust. Faith is trust. It is not knowing the answer, not knowing the timing, not having clarity, and yet choosing to trust, trusting that somewhere beneath and beyond belief, there is something on the other side of heartbreak, that the darkness can open and unfold itself again into light. I can only wonder if this constitutes part of the power of community, of why we gather together. When one of us loses the ability to trust, someone else steps in and does it for us. They hold faith that even in the midst of the gathering gloom, the light will again spill out. After Matt hung up the phone, it was a very, very long night. His outcome felt so uncertain, and I was powerless to do anything about it. All I could do was think about him, almost like a vigil. I barely made it into the next shift that next day. I didn't want to. It felt too heavy. But I did. I trusted that I had to. I had made a promise that I thought would give no reward. He had made his intentions clear when he hung up that phone. All I could do was trust that getting to the hotline and sitting by the phone for the next 5 hours was the right thing to do. 2 hours in, I felt a hand on my shoulder. The worker at the desk right next to mine was looking down at me. "Someone wants to talk to you," she said. Matt had called back. He called to tell me that he had made it through, that he had made it through the night. And he would continue to call back for most of my remaining shifts at the hotline. He would call back until my time at the Samaritan's Crisis Hotline was at an end. The sun had set, and then it rose. It was said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and the light was good. And it was separated from the darkness, and the light was called day, and the darkness was called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, There was darkness, and there was light. All of that was there on the first day.